Ivan Eland is Senior Fellow and Director of the Center on Peace and Liberty at the Independent Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of this proposed three-stage plan that was being proposed out of London? The negotiation phase, the transition phase, the implementation phase. We've heard it before, but talk about the group of players at this table.
Well, I think, they're all trying to get together, the countries that are supporting the opposition, and it's mainly a propaganda piece, I think, because it's not going to happen. And the reason for that is, as your report just said, Assad is doing pretty well with Russia's help. And the rebels have made gains in other areas, but, basically the regime is pretty secure. And when you're winning a war, you don't want to negotiate. You want to keep fighting. But the problem in Syria is there's so many groups and there's so many of these outside powers that are flooding the battlefield with weapons and even intervening directly, such as Russia and Iran, that you have not only multiple opposition groups, and then you have multiple side groups helping the regime, so that's difficult to negotiate. And then you have all these outside powers that are stoking the conflict, because the regime would be weak and the opposition would be weak if not for all these other players.
And over the years, we've seen so many groups get together and talk and talk and talk. Is it possible to have a serious discussion of a path forward if you don't have everyone at the table, including Syria, including Russia, including all the opposition groups?
Well, I think you at least have to have Russia and the U.S., and they have to bring most of the groups in. Now, you're not going to get ISIS or, the al-Qaeda affiliate, though I think they're out of bounds. I think everybody wants to fight them, but that's another problem for later, that you're not going to have peace even if you get everybody to agree on some sort of a transition plan. But Assad is just simply not going to agree to transitioning himself out of power.
We just saw a few days ago at the G20 summit, the U.S. president meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines to discuss Syria. Nothing came out of that, but how close could they be, are they, to agreeing on some sort of ceasefire solution?
Well, it could be a temporary ceasefire, but of course, I think a long-term solution is a long way off. They might be able to cease fire for a while to get humanitarian aid in and out of some cities. It could be local ceasefires in Aleppo or some other place. But I think a long-term solution is still a long ways off, just because there's so many moving parts and people have various incentives for what they're doing, which is not peace.
I want to ask you now about Turkey's recent moves in Syria across the border. About 2 weeks ago, they have this operation going, and the dynamic of Turkey trying to work with or work both the United States and Russia separately.
Right, and also the United States is trying to work with Turkey and the people that Turkey's fighting, the Kurds. So everybody's trying to, it's a multi-sided mess is what it is. And Turkey actually invaded the northern part of Syria, and the U.S. has been trying to get Turkey more involved, and they should be more involved. But the problem is the main fighters that are cooperating with the U.S. and the most effective fighters against the regime against ISIS have been the Syrian Kurds. Well, of course, Turkey's going after them. Russia gets a lot of flack from the West for saying it's going after ISIS, but really goes after other groups. So I can say, well, it's ISIS or Assad. Well, Turkey's doing the exact same thing on the other side by saying, well, we're going after ISIS, but they seem to be really going after the Syrian Kurds because I think they're more threatened by that. That's one problem that the U.S. has, is everybody's less interested in fighting ISIS than it is. They want to fight somebody else first. And the Turks are clearly after the Syrian Kurds, who are U.S. allies.
All right, Ivan Eland, always great to get your insight. We appreciate your joining us here on the show.
Thank you.